All right, we're back for another week of goal setting. Hi, Miss Bridget. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good, good. Really good to hear that you're doing well. I'm excited that you're back because we had such a rousing conversation last week about your Peloton goal. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. How is that going? You were shifting up from 30 minutes on the Peloton to 45 minutes. And how are you feeling?
Yes, so you know what, that worked. I stuck with the 45 minutes. So every workout had to be at least 45 minutes, or the only deviation was I did a 30-minute ride that had an immediate 10-minute arm workout. Still on the Peloton, because it's weird. You can do these arm workouts. So I did a 30-minute bike ride, immediately went straight to the 10-minute arm workout. And from there, I immediately went to, since my Peloton's in my weight room, I went straight to the weights and did about 25-minute leg work. So I said, if I'm going to do
Wow.
30 minutes, I have to add on the weight. So that's how sometimes I'm just so tired. I can't do the, I can't do
Uh-huh.
high intensity 45 minutes on a bike or something. And if I just feel, oh, I'm going to do 30 minutes, I will do an extra 15 to 25 minutes of uh, some type of weightlifting.
Wow.
So that's my trade-off. If I only do 10 minutes bike, I have to do the weights. So that's what I did.
That is really impressive. Congratulations.
I'm trying.
Look, so yet again, Miss Bridget, you've anticipated the topic that we're going to cover today.
Oh,
Specifically, um, this idea of motivation versus ease of activity and how that contributes to our reaching our goals. We started touching on that last week. We kind of rushed through it towards the end of the session, and we're going to spend a little bit more time with it today. So, to your point, um, you suggested some days after work, you're just way too tired to spend 45 minutes on the Peloton. So instead of making it a zero sum game, um, instead of not doing anything because you can't do 45 minutes, you just cut it down. You did your 30, and then you do an extra however many minutes weightlifting. You make sure that you get some time in. That's amazing.
yeah, I have not looked at the graph to understand that. So
Yeah, that's why we're coming back to it because I know I kind of sprung it on you. And you know what? I'm making some adjustments on my computer here as we speak because it doesn't love that I have so many windows open. Um, but can you tell me if you remember anything about the graph?
right. So what I remember, because it was hard for me to understand that graph, but what I remember is if your motivation is high and the work is fairly easy, you're more likely to accomplish the task. If
Yeah.
your motivation is low, and if your goal is then too, not really unattainable, but seems, I guess when your motivation is low, you automatically think something is much more difficult. If you
Mm-hmm.
try to reach that more difficult task, it would be much harder to achieve and you're less likely to accomplish the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, we're going to break it down even before I take you back to that graph, which is admittedly a little bit confusing. Two factors. play into the attainability of a goal. Up, and we've got somebody joining us, so I'm just gonna hit admit here. Hi, welcome. Hi, Q. I'm Dr. Woos.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for joining. I'm Dr. Woos. This is Byte Wellness. We've got Miss Bridget here. I think this might be your first time on a workshop with us. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. I think you
Okay.
did something with Dr. Jafunza, right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
my first, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so you were part of that COVID immune supporting course.
Right.
Maybe even back in, was that April or May back then?
Yeah, it's been about that.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome back. I'm glad that you've followed along all this time. Um, so we're talking about SMART goals. We're talking about how to create wellness goals that we can actually reach, not ones that just sound good, not ones that, other people think we should set, but the ones that are actually going to make a difference in our lives, and then the ones that uh, are going to move the needle because we're actually changing habits. And as we do that, I just want to let you know, Q, should I call you Q? Should I call you something else? What would you like?
Q or Kiana, it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, Kiana, I just want to let you know that these workshops are usually right around 30 minutes. A lot of the time we have great conversation and we go over to about 45 minutes, but they are usually fairly intimate, just a few folks having conversations. You don't have to get on video. This works best if you're able to keep coming on audio when you have a question or a comment, or just sort of make it interactive, because these are really not about me uh, teaching you, not about me sort of lecturing to you, but this is an opportunity for you to break down all those messages that you were getting on our daily texts for the last week, and really figure out, well, how do you implement them? So you get to just ask a bunch of questions, and this is meant to be practical, no pressure.
Okay.
Okay, so Miss Bridget and I were just talking about what makes a goal attainable. And so, this week you've been getting all the messages about SMART goals, right? That framework, SMART. And we got messages about that last week too on the daily text thread. And for the end of this week, we're going to really focus in on that A part of the SMART framework, where S is specific. You want to make sure your goal is as specific as possible. If I'm going to run, or if I'm going to exercise more, what type of exercise am I doing? I'm running. If so that's the S. The M is that it's measurable. And so if I'm going to run more, how much more am I going to run, or how much am I going to run? And let's say I'm going to run a mile once a week. Okay. Um, Attainable is the A, SMA. And that question is really like, let's be honest. Are you going to be able to do this? Are you going to be able to run a mile? Or are you just going to bang your head against a brick wall, feel really bad, and then quit? So there's attainability, right? And in that case, what you might ask yourself is, well, have I ever run a mile before? And if I'm someone who's never really run before for leisure, then maybe I want to start with running a half mile. Or maybe I just want to start with a quarter mile and see where that goes. The R in the SMART framework, SMAR, is relevance. So you're more likely to reach your goal of running a mile once a week if it actually matters to you to run once a week. So that really gets at your motivation. What's the relevance of that goal in your life? Some people might say, hey, I want to run so that I can lose weight. We'll dig even deeper. What is it about weight loss that matters to you? Is it that you've got a kid at home that you want to be able to move better with? Is it that you've got like a class reunion coming up and for purely aesthetic reasons, you just want to lose weight? Is it that your doctor has told you you got prediabetes or high blood pressure, and that if you lose weight, your, your health will improve? What is the reason that is at the core of your being for doing this goal? If you can keep that in the back of your mind, you are so much more likely to achieve it. So we've gotten through SMAR, and then T is up next, and that is timeliness. So you're going to run this mile once a week. You think that's reasonable, and you're doing it because you've got pre-diabetes and people to stay alive for and things to do, and you're not trying to go out like that. So you need to lose weight. The timeliness is, so by when am I going to get to this goal of running a mile a week? Am I going to start it tomorrow and then keep going for the next month? Am I going to do this for the next 3 months? Am I going to work my way up to it for the next 3 months? So 3 months from now, I want to be able to run a mile a week. It's all about just setting up goals that are as smart as possible so you can build accountability for yourself. So you could actually ask yourself, am I doing this? If so, great, pat on the back. If not, let's go back to the drawing board and figure out what I need to change so that I can reach my goals. Okay, so that's the SMART framework. But what we started to break down last week, and Miss Bridget was there, is we dove really deep into that A part of the SMART framework, because a lot of what happens, and I see this with my primary care patients, and I see this with people in the hospital as well, is we set these goals for ourselves and we don't always get really honest about whether they're attainable or not. Again, like we said, running once a week, if you never run before, if you get winded running up the block, running a mile once a week is maybe not an attainable goal for you right now. Maybe you should cut it back. So we're going to be thinking about how exactly to measure attainability. And there's kind of this two-step test that makes a lot of sense that's based on behavioral science. And that's what Ms. Bridget and I were just going to review. Does all of that make sense to you, Kiana? Like, do you kind of remember getting those types of messages over the
Yes,
last
I'm
couple
looking
weeks?
at them now as you speak. And
Good.
attainable is a big issue for me.
It is for a lot of people. You want to elaborate on that? Any
Okay.
recent experiences?
Yeah, I started I made a list of like habits that I wanted to develop. And I've been looking at stuff online or researching, and people usually say 1 to 3. I have a list of 21. Oh, so, and I've never made the 21. I think the most I got was 14 in a day. So
That's
I've just,
impressive.
but it's, I don't know. I don't think I'm able to pace myself.
Yeah.
And that's, I can see that across the board. And so I don't know.
That's
So
good
that's,
insight.
I went through the list to, determine why, and I actually wrote it out, spent the hours to do this 21, but I'm not making it.
I mean, first of all, good for you for deciding that you were going to change 21 behaviors, like build 21 new habits, because that's so hard. And a lot of people don't even think that big, to think that it's possible. So what you have going for you is your optimism and your ambition and your willingness to put in the work. So that's amazing. Changing 21 habits is super hard. I'm impressed that you were even able to do 14 in a day. So I think what this gets at is something you've already begun to realize about yourself. You said you have trouble pacing yourself. So pacing is related to one of the concepts in the two-step rule for judging whether your goals are attainable. And so I'm just going to tell you what those two steps are. The first question to ask yourself, the first step is, how motivated am I to achieve this goal? And you want the answer to be like very motivated, not just a little bit, but I really want this. This means a lot to me. And you go through that exercise of just keep digging beneath the surface even further, just like we said with the running once a week, figuring out why you want to run, why you want to run to lose weight. Why do you want to lose the weight? What exactly matters to you that is not going to change tomorrow or next year, that is tied to this goal? So first step is, how motivated are you? And you want the answer to be very. Are you very motivated? Yes or no? The second step is, how easy is it? Is it pretty easy to do this thing? Yes or no? So if you answer yes to both of those, are you very motivated? Yes. Is it pretty easy? Yes. Then your attainability score is very high on this goal. You are giving yourself one of the best possible opportunities of actually getting this thing. So it sounds like, Miss Kiana, it sounds like what you're saying is, in not pacing yourself, what you're saying is you're actually not making it very easy for yourself. You're loading on a lot of work. Changing any habit, just one, is so hard. And you got a list of 21 that you're trying to do all at once. So that second step, right, is going to be a no for you. You might be really motivated and answer that first question. Yes. Are you very motivated to change these 21 habits? And Ms. Kiana says yes. But let's be honest. Is it pretty easy to change these 21 habits? No, it's not. So it's really a matter of motivation and ease. Does that resonate with you?
It does. I call myself breaking it down simple, but I don't know. It does.
Do you want to share any examples?
Like, what did I try to? One guy online suggested, like, if you don't feel like doing it, just do it for 2 minutes. So I tried to make it easier to just do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do to make this easy. I haven't met 21, but I try to do that. I try not to let 2 days go by without doing it. But that's not working. Some of them I haven't even touched yet in months. So yeah.
So what are some of the 21 goals? What are some of the things you're doing?
If you don't mind sharing, you
I don't
have
mind.
to, but
definitely exercise. I'm at my heaviest and my body is not happy. So I exercising, I do that more than not. Deep breathing and meditation, those are two separate ones. Reading, I've gotten away from reading for years. So I want to get back into that because my focus isn't where it used to be at all. So I thought that would help. I wanted to research certain things like the brain. And family. I'm really having this thing about what is family, what does it mean to be a family member, and so I've been really looking into that. I mean, I don't know why I didn't bring my composition book with me, but I don't have it in front of me. So that's what I can get off the top of my head.
Yeah, those are big lifts. Those are, each one of those is hard. Miss Bridget, I don't know if you have any immediate thoughts on the list that Miss Kiana shared.
So you know what? I think that, so your list, so some of the things that you're talking about, these are things you want to do in a given day or in a given week.
Day. I want to do them daily to make a
Okay.
habit.
Yeah.
So you know, I've actually seen something similar to this before, where people, you know, there've been these forums where the idea is you can have a full life if you do these however many things a day, or you choose to do so many things a day. And I thought 21 was kind of high, but I know I've seen certain things, and one could be make sure that you dance, make sure that you sing out loud, make sure that you take a walk. And I remember when I say, my goodness, if people are going to do all those things and you're going to work a job 9 to 5, you're going to have to put a time limit on each of those things. So as I'm driving to work, I am definitely going to sing. You know, you get some things in all at once.
Okay.
And I know some of those things can be uplifting, and it winds up actually putting you on a schedule. So my question is, those are a lot of things to do, and there's a 24-hour day. Do you say, I'm going to do research for 30 minutes at this time of day? I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for 10 minutes this time of day. You know what I mean? Do you break it down that way? Because how do you keep track of everything you want to do?
Okay. It's evolving, you know, as I do it, I find, you know, times a day that are best.
Got
So
it.
I do,
Yeah.
I'm doing like think I'm getting my morning and evening routine. It's starting to, you know, form, you know, with the deep breathing and meditation and,
Yeah.
you know, that type of thing. And yeah, so it's starting to take form that way. It's hard for me to put limits on stuff. So I've been trying to use timers, but
Yeah.
you know, I'll hit the
Yeah.
snooze or whatever, but
So
That is very impressive.
yeah,
That's amazing.
I'm super impressed. I mean, okay, I think there is an opportunity for us, just generally, right? We talk about this on the platform all the time. There's an opportunity for Black women to show ourselves some grace and, you know, let up on the gas pedal sometimes and just sort of take a moment to think about all that we've done and all that we've been to our community all day, all week. And then maybe if we feel like we can't do anymore or we just kind of need to rest, maybe we let ourselves. So I'm kind of getting that vibe, Miss Kiana, because again, look, so impressive. I can't believe you've made the overwhelming majority of changes on that list of 21. And I might say, look, if your brain is maybe kind of overloaded from making all these changes at once, maybe you just sit with those changes. And maybe those other 7 things on the list, you just like put them off to the side. And what is today? It's the end of April. May is starting. Maybe you give yourself all of May and the rest of April to just really fine tune those 14 things on the list. Keep working on the schedule, things that are hard for you right now, like, you know, setting specific time limits for things so that you can fit each of these habits into the day around all your other responsibilities, maybe that's just what you focus on in May. And then in June, perhaps, you can bring on those other 7. It's hard to know exactly how long it takes to set a habit. You'll read things online that say it takes 21 days to build a habit, and that's actually just, it's not true. There are different time periods for different people's brains and different people's lives. So I want to give you a pat on the back, and I hope you can do that for yourself too. And then just give yourself some time to kind of settle into the new habits. What do you think? Is that something you kind of actively resisting, where you hear that and you're like, no, I have to do
No,
this?
that sounds good. Now I believe I need to do more, so I'm not patting myself on the back at all, but fine tuning what does seem to pop up on my, check my habit tracker
Yeah,
every day.
yeah.
Fine tuning that does make sense to me.
So I'm gonna add something else that Miss Bridget and I talked about last week. I'm gonna share my screen for a second, because it may be helpful to see this graph. So there's this behavioral scientist, this guy who does research out of Stanford, and he came up with this graph that kind of explains the 2-step rule that we discussed earlier, where the 2 questions in measuring attainability of goals, the 2 questions are: 1, is your motivation pretty high? And the second question is it pretty easy to do? And, I'm going to just sort of walk us through this graph here, because what I found is, look, it's a confusing looking graph, but once you figure out what it actually means, this can stay in your head as you're going through your 14 tasks for the day and maybe working your way towards that 21. Just remind yourself to ask those 2 questions. So here's what BJ Fogg and his research found. He found that, look, you're more likely to be able to do a task so this green line is the line where you're more likely on this side to achieve your goals, and you're less likely underneath the green line to achieve your goals. So we want to be to the right and above the green line over here, where prompts succeed. You're more likely to get over here and achieve your goals if you have super high motivation, right? Even if the thing is hard to do. It can't be impossible, but if it's pretty hard and you're very motivated, you can just willpower your way through. It takes a heck of a lot of energy, and I argue that it's not all that sustainable, but you can get it done. If you're not super motivated, just kind of motivated, but the thing is really, really easy to do, and you're all the way on this side of the axis, then you can get it done. What's an example of that? If you decide that you're going to eat apples, going to eat more fruits and vegetables, and you're working from home and you're sitting in front of a bowl of apples, odds are, no matter how motivated you are probably going to eat an apple that day, because you're sitting there, it's in front of you, it's the most available thing to eat, it's the easiest thing to do, is just eat an apple. So when we think about Miss Bridget getting on the Peloton for 45 minutes, that's your goal, and we think about Miss Kiana doing things like exercising, maybe every day or every other day, the question is really, well, how easy is it to do? Meaning, are we doing it at a time of day when there aren't a lot of distractions? Or are we doing it at a time where you have to like block out family members and people are asking you for things and you've got work piling up? What does that look like for you, Miss Bridget and Miss Kiana?
Well, I guess because I'm considering, I guess if I go through those SMART principles and things like that, there are times at the end of the day, at the end of a work day, I'm coming home, I fix dinner, I have more work to do, I sit down for a bit, and then I'm super tired. My task that I want to achieve is on the middle part of that line. It's not easy to do, but it's not super hard.
Okay.
And then
okay.
sometimes my motivation though gets lower and lower as it gets later in the day. So
Okay.
and I think I mentioned this before, if I have to work out and have all my workouts exclusively at the end of the day, it's going to be a task that's much harder and my motivation is going to be a lot lower. So I'm more likely to fail. I find that if I try to work out in the morning when I have the day before me and I don't have necessarily any deadlines other than trying to get to work on time or something like that, I have much higher motivation because I'm excited because it's the beginning of the day. And then the task is no harder than what I've made it. So I'm more likely to achieve. So I think I've helped myself in that regard by changing the time of day I'm going to exercise.
Okay. So that's exactly what we're getting at, right? When we talk about is the thing easy or hard to do, it's the automatic thought is, well, we're talking about the actual activity, right? But I think if you go a bit deeper, we're not just talking about whether your 45-minute Peloton workout feels hard or feels easy. We're also talking about how easy it is to get to the Peloton. Do you have to travel outside of your house to get to the bike, right? To get to the exercise equipment? Do you have to travel very far to get to the exercise equipment, or is it right down the street, or is it in your building, or is it in your actual home? Do you have to wade through a bunch of distractions like you just mentioned, Miss Bridget, and which I experience as it gets later too? Things pile up. I've got to cook dinner. People need things from me. So many emails that I have to respond to throughout the day that later in the day, it's actually harder for me to do the same exercise that is easier if I were to do it earlier in the day. Does that make sense? Where we're not just when we talk about ease, we're not just talking about the.
I'm sorry you
Yes.
broke up, but yeah, it's, I'm sorry, Miss Bridget.
No, go right ahead. Yes, it is. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Something buzzing here, but can you guys hear me?
I
Yes.
can now, yeah.
Okay. Did that make sense, Miss Kiana?
It did. As Miss Bridget was explaining her day, it made me think about how things like I'm an early riser and
Okay.
I have more energy in the morning and I crash
Yes.
very, very early in the day. I'm ready to go to bed.
Yes, let's
So yeah,
use that. That's that type of insight that is going to make all the difference for you. So whatever, if you go down your list of 21 tasks and you just sort of circle the ones that feel the hardest. Like if exercise is one of those things where it's like, well, this doesn't necessarily feel natural for me, or it's a little bit harder for me to do this than it is to meditate. Circle exercise. There might be something else on your list that you think is a little bit harder, even the researching, about family or the reading a little bit more, whatever kind of feels like it's been tough for you to get to, circle that. And those might be the things that you want to front load your day with. If, when you are, since you're an early riser, if when you get up early, you have time, if you can make some space in the day when you've got the energy and you're feeling good, try to dedicate that time to one or two of your most important goals. And then leave the others for later in the day. And like you said, right before bed for your nighttime routine.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
It
It's
resonates.
it that resonates. Okay, good. That's really good to hear. I mean, look, this is, science. This is science that has examined the way that our brains, the way that like thousands of human brains respond to goal setting and what environment is required to get us to reach those goals. It turns out that our brains work pretty similarly, even though, a bunch of us look different and we sound different and we've had different life experiences. There are some things about the human brain that are just predictable. And this is one of them. So if you can use this behavior science to your advantage, you can create these goals that you reach and start changing your life in all these really important ways. It's wonderful.
Well, this helped motivate me a little bit more.
Well, good. I'm glad. You guys, so like I told you at the beginning, Ms. Kiana, we have really good conversations in these weekly sessions, and we do tend to go over our 30 minutes or so. And so we've done that again today. But is there anything else that you two would like to add? Any questions, any comments, things to think about?
I don't have anything to add. I'm just, rolling in my mind, how I can change what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same here. It's helpful to kind of remember, uh, just, I mean, everything that you talk about is so practical. And when you think about it, it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Why don't I just change a few things to add a little structure? And sometimes it's just a matter of structure is the motivate. Sometimes you want to do something, but you just can't find either the time, energy, or seem to carve out that space. And sometimes just adding a little bit of structure and a little bit of understanding is the motivator to a degree, because it just
Right.
opens up the opportunity to perform a task.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the way you said that, making time and space. And sometimes that's what structure allows us to do. On that BJ Fogg graph we saw, you saw on the top right of the green curve, it said prompts succeed here. And underneath it said prompts fail here. And we didn't talk about what prompts is he discussing. Why is the word prompts on the graph? But that's because a big part of this behavioral science is the idea of setting triggers for ourselves. Again, human brains work in some very predictable ways, and they are not that different from some animal brains or some behaviors that we've seen in animals. So think of like Pavlov's dogs. I forget the actual experiment, but something to the effect of when a bell was rung, the dogs uh, knew to expect food. So you ring the bell and you give food. And the next day you ring the bell and you give the dogs food. And you do that for like 12 days. And now, whenever you ring the bell, the dogs are looking around for food because their brain has been trained to know the bell is the trigger. And every time I hear this trigger, I should get food. So the prompts that are mentioned on that graph are the triggers. So again, just one more parting bit of wisdom is, as we're thinking through how to build structure around our goals, don't hesitate to use triggers. Miss Kiana, we were talking about setting up timers where you would do certain activities for a period of time and then move on to the next one. Well, think about using that same timer, that app on your phone, think about using that as a trigger. So setting alarms to say, when my 2 p.m. alarm goes off, that's when I'm going to get up and go for a walk around my house. Or, you know, I sit too much, right? I'm sitting here talking to you standing up because otherwise I would sit all day, and that's really bad for our health. So I've started setting these hourly alarms where if I'm going to sit down, if I'm not standing up on a call or standing up doing work at my little kind of standing desk here, my makeshift desk, then once an hour, my alarm goes off at the 55 of every hour. And if I've been sitting, that's my cue. Got to stand up, shake it out, do some jumping jacks, do some squats, turn on some music, and just dance for 5 minutes, move around. And that's really work, because if I didn't have that alarm as a trigger, I would forget. I'm not going to remember to get up every 55 minutes. So that's a little piece of structure that I was able to build in. It cost me almost nothing. And as the research shows us, it can possibly half my risk of developing type 2 diabetes further down the line, or a heart attack or a stroke, just because I'm getting up and moving throughout the day. So yeah, let's keep thinking about adding that structure to our lives. I love the way you put that, Miss Bridget. And I thank you so much, Miss Kiana, for sharing. I really enjoyed having you in this conversation. I think we all got a lot out of it.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I hope to see both of you back, same time, same station, next week, Wednesday. All right. Take care, guys.
Sounds good.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. See you later.